Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to build this simple widget application with ReactJS, only with React hooks and pure CSS. So let's have a look at what we are building. We have a couple of boxes right here for adding income and adding expense. If I click on add expense, we can add an expense. And if we add the expense, we will see it in the list of transactions right here down below. We can also add an income. Let's say salary of 10,000, and we can see it also down below. We can remove the transactions and we come back to the initial state which we see in the beginning. As simple as this. Let's now open VS Code and start creating this amazing project from scratch. I have created a brand new project with npx create react app, and I have opened that. On the left side and on the right side, I have started my development server on localhost 3000, and before we start creating the components of this project, we are going to install a couple of packages. First one will be React icons, because we will use a couple of those icons inside the project. So I'm gonna copy that command right here. I'm gonna open a new terminal and I will paste it right here, and that will install React icons package for me. And I can immediately see that that was reflected on the package.json file, and I can see it right here that I have installed 4.7.1 version of React icons package. And probably we're going to use also a package called UUID, but we will install this during the development process. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, first of all, we will clear up this component right here, everything inside the app, and I'm going to save, and we will see blank space right here, because we are not rendering anything at the moment. Of course, we don't need this logo import, and you can clean it up yourself if you would like also. So pretty much the app.js will be modified with this so far, and we're going to create a folder right here inside the source directory, and I'm going to call this components. And what we're going to have, basically we want to have a component called header.jsx. We will have a component called footer.jsx, and we will have a component called modal.jsx, and this modal will be a modal that will be utilized in a way that it will be opened by clicking on the two cards, by adding expense and an income. So we will make it reusable. Instead of creating a modal when we click on add expense and create a new modal when we click on add new income, we will use only one modal, and this is gonna be the modal.jsx. Okay, and what we will also have is probably some more small components, but let's start right now by working on the header. So I'm gonna type RFCA, that's a snippet I have. You can install this from the extensions tool right here on the left side. It's a very cool snippet, saves you some time, and we will need to import the app.css. So I'm gonna import this app CSS file. All right, and basically this will return a div with the class name of header, and it will have just an h1, let's say, and it will say budget app or ReactJS budget app, just like this. And we can import the header right here, and we will see it directly. So I'm going to say import header, and you can see that it is auto suggesting me the path to the header. And inside the div, I'm going to place the header right here, just like that. And you will see the header appeared on our server right here on the right side. All right, what we will do now is we will open the app CSS, and we're going to clear everything up to the app, and we will start writing some CSS code. So I'm going to say star, and I'm going to say box sizing, border box. We are going to do a basic reset, a standard thing that most people do. And then our app will be with width of 100%, height of 100 VH, and it will be with display flex, align item center. I'm going to say flex direction column, and we will save for the moment. All right, and we can also start styling the header. So I'm going to say header. The header will have a width of 100%, a height of 50 pixels. I will say background color will be black, color will be white. We will have some font weight of bold. And let's see what we have. We have this. Cool, looks fine to me. And we can also say to be display with flex. We will align the items to the center, and we will say justify content to the center, and that will bring the text to the center. Maybe we can increase a little bit the height. So if I make it 100 pixels, it's too big. So let's leave it at 50 pixels, just like this. And we can give some padding. So I'm going to say padding 20 pixels, internal padding. It's too much, 5 pixels. We'll have to increase the height. Yeah, once you increase the height, you can have the padding also. And if we inspect this, we will see that the height is 55 pixels. And we have internal padding of 5 pixels right here on the tools. That seems cool to me. Let's bring this down and work on the footer. So the footer, I'm going to open the footer and type the same snippet right again. And I'm going to say class name footer, and here we will have just a paragraph, and it will say ReactJS budget app 2023 ampersand copy. All right, let's save this and also bring our CSS file. So I'm going to say import the app CSS file just like this, and I'm gonna hit save, and I can style the footer as well. So the footer pretty much will have the same styles as the header. So I will copy and paste them and go back to the app.js and import the footer. So I'm going to import the footer and I will paste it right here. Footer, just like this. Once we have this, they will be they will be attached next to each one, and this is because in the middle we don't have anything that will expand. So let's create a div here, and let's call this div class name of content. Okay, and inside this div we will put everything that we will have for the content of this application. And let's go back here and let's say below the footer, let's say content. And the content, now we have to do some calculations. Basically we have 55 pixels for the header and 55 pixels for the footer, and that makes 110 pixels in total. So in order for this to expand and we send the footer on the bottom of the screen, we have to say min height of this content to be calculate. So we will calculate 100 VH minus 110 pixels. And once I do that, you will see that immediately we had the footer going to the bottom, and this is what we want. All right. And now we'll continue. So inside the div with the class name of content, we will start creating our layout. So for this content, we will say we'll have a div, and this div will be the wrapper div that will hold the boxes, the two boxes. And I'm gonna call this div class name boxes wrapper. Okay, and inside it we will have another div. Actually, there will be two divs, and each div will have an icon with some text. So let's do that right now. Let's call this div with the class name of box expense, and this one will be div class name of box income. And once we have this, we can search for the icons and we can start putting them right here. So I'm gonna search for money, and we're gonna pick up this one, GPay money. So you can see that it was copied, and I'm gonna say import GPay money from React icon /G. So whichever icon you are importing, you have to get the same, basically you have to utilize its first two letters. If it's G, you have to say React icon /G. If it's FA, you have to import it from FA. And you can see that it's out suggesting it for you. In our case, we have G, so we're gonna use G. And right here for the expense, we're gonna say GPay money. And we're gonna give it a size of 100 and color of red. Okay. And once we save, you can see the icon appeared right here. Similarly, we will grab the other one for the income, and we're gonna just copy and paste it right here, G receive money. And for the income, we will say G receive money. Again, size will be 100 and color will be green because that's an income and it's something positive, right? So here we have the income and the expense. And here we can say expenses or expense. Sorry, it's going to be add expense. And right here we'll say add income. Add income. All right. All right, we have the layout, and let's go to the styling mode right now. Okay, so we have the wrapper, boxes wrapper, and what we're gonna pretty much say is boxes wrapper, and I can give this a border so that we can see it. So I'm gonna say 1 pixel solid red. Once I do that, let me see, it's boxes wrapper. Okay, boxes wrapper. Now we can see what we have as inside boxes wrapper. We can say width of 100%, right? Width of 100%. For the content, we have to also say width of 100%. All right. And we'll continue with boxes wrapper. So boxes wrapper will have a display of flex, a line item center, justify content center, and now we will see them next to each other. That's great. Now what we can do is we can say box expense and box income. Basically, we're gonna say dot box. Let me reduce the size. Box expense. They're gonna have a border of 1 pixel solid hexadecimal DE. It will have a height of 250 pixels and width of 250 pixels. It will be with display flex, again align item center, justify content center, and flex direction column. We can see now the box, and we will give it a border radius, so border radius of 5 pixels or even 10 pixels, and it's going to be more oval. Okay, and we can do like font size of 24 pixels. Let's see how this will look like. And font weight of bold. All right, looks good to me. We can just add dot box income right here, and they will the classes will apply for both of them. Now I'm going to remove this border, and I'm going to save again, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So we have them next to each other. Let's give them some margin. So I'm going to say margin. We will say 0 from top and bottom, and 20 from left and right. Now they will be, even we can increase more. Let's say we can have 50 pixels between them, and they will look like this next to each other. Now they are next to the navbar because we haven't given any margin to this box right here. So box wrapper, their parent div, will have a margin top of 50 pixels, and now you can see them moving a little bit below. Okay, and we will continue now with styling them. What we will do, when we hover over them, we will have that nice effect. So I'm gonna say, first of all, we're gonna have what was it? We'll come back right here. So box expense and box income. When we hover over them, we will increase their padding. So I'm gonna say transition. So transition all 0.5 seconds ease. And here we'll say padding of 30 pixels. Let's try this out. And we will also say background color of RGBA 2.255.9. That will be a little bit gray. Let's see if I save now. Okay, we have a problem. Let's try this out. I'm gonna delete it and I'm gonna do it again. So box expense. My server is running. Box expense on hover. Increase the padding and also the background color. I don't know why this is not working. It should work. Let me restart the server. npm start. Let's see. Let's inspect and see if we have any errors. No, we don't have any errors. This is strange. All right, let's don't lose some time. We will add this hover effect afterwards, and let's continue with doing our job. So we have the boxes, and now what we're gonna do is we will create the modal when we click on them to open the modal. So in the modal, I'll create a component called modal. All right, and here we will have to import our CSS, of course, again, and I'm going to import it just like we did in the other components. And pretty much we will return a div, which will be with the class name of modal/overlay, and this div will have, and this modal overlay div will have another div that will be called the actual modal. Okay, and the modal, first of all, will have a heading, and I'll say h2. I will say modal for the moment, and here we'll have an input of type text, and we will have also another input of type text, and we will have a button, which will be the action button. So I'm going to say button. Just for the moment, I'm putting these dummy names. And what we can do now, we can import the modal. So I'm going to say import modal from component modal. And we'll have to add a state right here, because when we click something, then we have to appear, we have to show this modal. So I'm going to import the useState hook from React, and I'm going to create a state. So I'm going to say const is modal open, set is modal open, and that's going to be useState false initially. Okay, but when I click over the boxes, I will want to set this to true. So what we have to do, we have to add an event listener to each box. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna say on click, and we're gonna run a function, and we're gonna say set is modal open, and we will set this to true. All right. Similarly, we will do it the same way for the other one. So I'm going to say this. Let's see. On click, set is modal open to true. All right. Let's see what we have now. We have the action setting the modal, and all we will need to do now is, let's say here we just add a conditional, and we say if is modal open, then I want to render the modal itself, just like that. So modal and is modal open and modal. That means that when this is true, render me the modal. And now if I click, we can see the modal appearing right here on the top, but we will make it with CSS, we will add it, we'll make it to appear in the center of the page. All right. Now I'm going to refresh and it's going to disappear, but we can test that it's working. And let's go to the, let's close the footer and the header, and let's go to the app CSS file now, and let's do the following. So to the app itself, we're going to say position relative. All right, because the app container is the one wrapping the modal overlay, which I'm going to style right now. So I'm going to say modal.modal overlay, and this will have a position of absolute, we're going to say width of 100%, height of 100%, all right? And you're going to have a background color of RGBA 255, 255, 255, and it's going to be a hexadecimal value of 0.9 for the or 0.5 for the last value of this RGBA, and we can test it. We can test to see what we have. Okay, we clearly see that the modal takes the whole thing right here, and we can reduce the color. We can play around with it, but I believe that we will leave it with 0.2, and we will continue working on this. But let's see, if I say 0, 0, 0, and I save, we can see it a little bit darker, which should be the case. Okay, I think that color is the best for the model. And if we give it a border of 1 pixel solid red, we will be able to see that it takes the whole thing, and that's the goal. It should take the whole thing. And then we're gonna say display of flex, align item center, justify content center, and it will move to the center. We're gonna say flex direction. Actually, that's fine. That's fine for the moment. This is for the overlay itself. And now we're going to style the modal itself. So we're going to say that modal. And again, it will be display with flex, align item center, justify content center, flex direction column. We're going to give the modal a width of 250 pixels. And let's see how this looks like. We're going to give it a border of 1 pixel solid white, or no, it's going to be with background white, sorry. So background color white, and it's too small. So let's make this bigger. Let's make it 400 pixels width and height of 400 pixels. Let's see how this looks like. Maybe we can reduce it a little bit. Let's make it 300, and I think that 300 will be fine for this amount of content we have inside the model. Okay, we can play around again. Border radius of 10 pixels. Border of 1 pixel, solid, I don't know, CE. And if we make the color of this 0.9, we will be able to see, I think 0.5 is the best. For border, what we can do, probably we can do DA, DE, or DE. Although it will not be visible, but let's make some color like, I don't know, red maybe. And you can see the model with the red border. What else we have inside the model? We will have modal input, or the H2. I think it was an H2. Modal H2 will be with margin bottom of 10 pixels, font size of 30 pixels, and we'll say modal input. Each input inside the modal container will have width of 100%, and let's see how this looks. It doesn't look great to me. Let's make them 90%. Okay. Height of 100 pixels. Let's see how this looks. Oh, that's too much. Let's do 50 pixels, too much again. 30 pixels. 30 pixels is fine. And it will have margin of 10 pixels between them. That's cool. And the button, okay, the button will have, I'm gonna say dot button. Actually, it's modal slash button. It's gonna have a background of black, color white, a width of 90%, height of 30 pixels, font weight of bold, font size of 20 pixels. Okay, too much, too big. Let's make it 18 pixels. And we can see that the model now has some shape. And we're gonna say margin top for this one will be 20 pixels. Cool. Now we have the contents of this model. What we are missing is the button to close it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say close here, and I will pick up this AI fill close circle button, and I'm gonna come back to the model and I'm gonna import it. So I'm gonna say import AI fill close from React icons / AI, just like this. And now we can paste it right here. I'm gonna say AI fill close, and I'm gonna give it a size of 30 and a color of black. Let's see. We can see it appearing right here, but we want to position it absolute. So what we're gonna do is we will say for the model itself that it's gonna have a position of relative, and we will say class name model / close icon to this icon, and we're gonna grab its class name just like this, and we're gonna say dot model close icon. And you can do it yeah, this is the way you can do it, but you can do it also by typing model the same way we did with the inputs and button, and you have to target this class name, but we will do it this way. And we can say position absolute, we can say top 0 and right 0, but we have to save, of course. So when we save this file, it will go to the top right corner. But what we want to do is, let's say we want some more space here, and also, I don't know, let's say 5 pixels from the top to move it a little bit down. And I don't like this color right now. I'm gonna come back later to make it with some kind of border if necessary. But now we have the model, and we can make it work to close the model and open it. So how we can make this work? Basically, what we will need to do is we will have to pass this setter function right here to change the state as a prop to the model itself. So we can say set this modal open equals to set this modal open. This is the prop we will receive inside the modal when we open it. And we can destructure the props right here, and we can say set this modal open, and we can say, of course, we can say on click, and we can basically use this by doing set is modal open to the false, to the reverse. And when I do this, and if I click this, of course I need to save the app.js file always. So I click on one of those and I see the modal opening. I close it. Click on one of those and I see the modal open it and I close it. It's working perfectly. We can probably make this a little bit larger. So let's say make it 50, and we can see it's much bigger. And I don't like the size of this modal pretty much. It's too small. Let's make it bigger. So I will make it, I'll come back right here and I'll make it 500 by 500. Let's see how this will look. It's too much again. 400. Yeah, that looks much better to me. And probably we can increase the height of the button to 50 pixels. And also, yeah, that looks great to me. And you can open and close the modal, but let's work on this. When we open the modal from add expense, we want to display add expense here in the header. And when we open it from add income, we want to display add income. And also the button text will change and stuff like that. So let's go back to the modal, and those here will always have a placeholder of description. And here the second one will be with placeholder of amount. Okay. And how do we make this work? When we click on one of those boxes to determine what will be the button name and the heading. So again, we'll have to play with some additional props right here. And what we're gonna do is we will do the following. When we click on those, actually we will have to revert the condition right here. And let me think a little bit. So we will do the following. We need to pass a prop right here. To the modal to determine if it's expense request or income request. So to do that, what we can do, we can create this is a little bit tricky. Let me think a bit. Basically, we will have to say on, so I'm going to say const on expense box click, and right here we will run a function. I'm going to say const on income box click, and that's going to be the same. And we can do for both of them. We will say set is modal open to be true, but here we'll have another state and we'll say const modal request type, and we can say set modal request type, and that's going to be with useState, and that's going to be an empty string by default. But here we'll say set modal request type to be expense, okay, and for this one we'll say set modal request type to be income. Once we do that, we will basically, I forgot here the set is modal open to be true, just like this. We'll come back right here and we will delete what we have written so far, and we'll say on expense box click, and for this one we'll say on income box click. Okay, once you have this, then you can pass the additional prop of modal request type right here. So modal request type, just like this. And let me increase the size of this code editor a little bit. And once you have this, you can copy the prop name you have given and go back right here and put it in the props, destructure it from the props, and here you can do a conditional check. And you can basically open curly braces and say if the modal request type is expense, okay, then you want to say at expense. Otherwise, actually I messed it up. If the request type is triple equal to expense, then you want to say the question mark comes here, and you will say at expense. Otherwise, you will say at income, just like this. Now save everything and let's try this out. We click on this box and we can say add expense in the heading, which is correct. We close it, add income in the heading, which is correct. And we can just copy the same logic right here for the button content, and it's gonna work. Okay, so let's test this out. You see add expense and add income as well. However, let's increase the size of the input boxes right here. Let's make them 40 pixels, and I think that's looking better. And let's also give them a border of 1 pixel solid DDDD. And maybe some padding of 5 pixels inside. Yeah, that looks good to me. And we're pretty much done with the logic to open the model and close it. We can close the model, we can open it, and now we have to work on displaying what we are typing right here. Cool, we are making some progress. Let's come back right here and let's think about what we will have in terms of state. So we will need to have an array of transactions, right? Basically an array of all expenses and an array of all incomes, and we will have to join them in one big array and loop through them and print out our transactions right here. So to achieve this, what we're gonna do is we will simply say the following. So I'm gonna say const expenses, and we're gonna say set expenses. And that's gonna be used to equal to useState, and that's gonna be an empty array. Cool. We're gonna copy and paste, and we're gonna say incomes, set incomes for the next one. Set incomes, just like this. Once we have this, we can work on making the modal inputs work and change the state right here and print it. What we need to do now, if I proceed logically, will be right here in the modal, we will import a hook called uState. And our modal will have a state. We'll say const description and set description. Okay, that's going to equal uState, and that's going to be an empty string. And of course, we will have const amount and set amount for the next one. Okay, once we have this, then we can bind the value of the first field to the description and the value of the second field to the amount, right? And we will also need to say on change, and we're going to say event, and we're going to say set description to be equal to the event target value. We need to change the state on every keystroke. So we need to change the value of the description, and we need to change the value of the amount field. So here we're going to say set amount, and with that we have hooked everything. Whatever we type right here will be valid. Okay. Once we have the amount and the description set up, we will have to create a handler that will actually make this state change right here. So first of all, I'm going to say const first of all, let's start with expense. Const on expense handler, and basically we will receive the description and the amount as parameters, and we'll perform something right here on expense handler. And let's copy this, and we'll say it also for the on add. It should be on add expense handler and on add income handler, just like this. And let's think. So when we are ready with this, we will have to call one of those. When we are ready with typing and we click the button inside the modal, we will have to call one of those functions which will change the state. So what we can do is we can pass those as props, of course, to the modal. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to pass them as props. I'm going to say on add expense handler to be equal to on add expense handler, and on add income handler to be equal to the on add income handler. And once I have them, I can extract them in the props right here. I can destructure them. I can say on add expense handler and also on add income handler, just like this. Now I have those handlers working, and what we're gonna do now when we have the handlers working, first of all, I'm gonna save everything, and I'm gonna assign a listener to this button inside the modal to make the operation. So I'm going to say const on button click. On button click, when I have this const on button click, based on the, so first of all, I'm going to check if the description or the amount are empty. If they are empty, meaning that we haven't typed anything and we have clicked the button, we will return from this function and we will do anything. We will not do anything. So I have to do on click to equal to on button click. Have to assign this click listener to this button, and we can test it. We can test it basically, and we can say, so console walk or alert. Let's say alert 1, 2, 3. Now watch this. Now, when I open the modal and I click the button, you can see the alert. You can see the alert, which means the button is hooked to the on-button click. But what I wanted to show you is that let's say we have inside this method a console or an alert of method has been called, just like this. And same for this one. So let's put it also the other inside other handler. And let's say if we'll have another if modal request type is expense, then we want to invoke this on add expense handler. So I'm going to say on add expense handler, and I'm going to invoke it, and I'm going to do the same for the other one, which is if it's income, I want to evoke the other handler, which is on add income handler. Cool. Now, if we save everything and we open this modal and I click the on expense, method has been called. All right, so it should say if there is no description and if there is no amount, then we have to return. Now if I save, that was my mistake. If I open the box and I click this, we see that nothing happens because we haven't populated, we haven't changed those variables right here, description and amount. And basically you have to check for this. And once you have something, if you are on expense, and you click on add expense, you will see method has been called. But if we have to be more specific, we can say expense method has been called and income method has been called. And let's make another demo right here. So I click on the box, I don't type anything, and it's not doing anything. It's returning from this function and we are stopping right here. But as soon as I add something in the fields, and I click, we can say expense method has been called, which is correct. And if I do the same for the income, we can see that income method has been called. That means that we have hooked up our handlers correctly. And right here in the app.js file, we just need to change the state right here. And we can start doing this by doing the following thing. Now, first of all, when we are adding a new expense, what we will do is we will say const alt expenses, and that's going to equal an array, and we will spread out the expenses we already have. So I'm going to say expenses right here and incomes. And once we have them, we're going to say const new expense, and that's going to be an object. And for the ID of this object, I'm going to say mat random multiplied by 1000. Let's say that's going to be the ID of this expense. Actually, it's not a good idea to use matfloor and matrandom, so we can use another package called generate random ID package. Let's see what we have. We have this unique ID package with npm, and how it works. Basically, we say unique ID so let's copy this unique ID, and you can see how it works. So you basically have to invoke it and it will generate you a unique ID. Let's paste it right here, npm install unique ID, and I think I have it already. Yeah, unique ID has been installed, and pretty much we can say import unique ID from unique ID. I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to import it right here. And after that, for the ID of this new expense, I'm just going to say unique ID, just like this. And of course, after that, we'll have a type which we will set to expense. Okay. And we'll have amount that will be equal to the amount that is passed, and we'll have also description, which will be equal to the description we pass right here. And with that, the new expense is ready, and then we can say const new expenses to equal alt expenses dot concat, and we will concat the new expense right here. And once we have this new const new expenses variable constant, we can say set expenses. We can set the state for the expenses to the new expenses, just like this. This will do the trick, and to demonstrate you that we actually have something here, we can say alert JSON. You can say alert expenses. Let's see now. Now, initially is an empty array, of course. Let's see. Now, if I add an expense, 1, 2, 3, or description expense, amount of 123, add expense, we can see object, something changed right here. Something changed, and we can see it. The easier way will be to console log. So I'm going to say console log expenses. Let's see. Now, let's make this bigger and let's inspect. And let's go to the console. Okay, initially we have an empty array, but as soon as I add something and I click on expense, we can see our newly created object with the amount, description, and ID of undefined. Why they're undefined? Because we haven't passed them as arguments from the model. So here we can say let's see, first argument was description and amount. So we have to pass them in the correct order. I'm going to say description and amount, and I'm going to say it in a save and perform the same thing again. So add expense, description to something, and amount, add expense. And now if I open and expand this, we can see that we actually have the description, the amount, and the ID and the type of expense. Okay, that's amazing. Let's do the same thing quickly for the other request type of income. Again, I'm gonna pass here the description and amount as arguments, and I'm gonna save. And I think pretty much my job here in the modal component has finished. I don't have to do anything more here. And I'm gonna return right here, and I will pretty much copy the same logic we did for the expense, and I'm gonna add it for the income. However, I will just change the names. So here I will say alt incomes, and we're gonna spread out, of course, the incomes, the already existing incomes. We're gonna say const new income, okay, new income, and that's gonna be with the type of income, of course. And you will see why we are putting this type later, why we specifically put a type of the string here. And we can say new incomes to equal alt incomes dot concat new income, just like this. And we're gonna set, of course, this state. It's not gonna be set expenses, it's gonna be set incomes, and that's gonna equal the new incomes. And I think now we can demonstrate this by looping through the incomes and expenses and showing all transactions we have right here. So to achieve that, first of all, we're gonna create const, what we can call this? We can call this transactions, okay? Transactions, and that's gonna be an array with all expenses and all incomes. And to demonstrate you that, we can do console log transactions, and we can say transactions. Let's see. Right now, transactions should be an empty array. When I reload, it should be an empty array. If I add an expense and I call this expense, and I say 1, 2, 3 for the amount, and actually after we add, we should close the modal as well. But now you can see that transactions became the expense I just created. But if I also add something here, I can say income and an amount, and I add the income. Now we can see that transactions is an array of two objects, and these are the expense we created and the income we created, right? And now we can loop through them and display them in the browser. But first of all, let's add this thing that I mentioned right now when we click the button to close the modal. And of course, that's very simple. We can say set is modal open to be false. And next time when we click the button, the modal will close. Okay, once we have the transactions here, inside the div with the class name of content, we can make a loop. But we'll make this loop inside another div, and this div will be with the class name of transactions wrapper. Okay, and the transactions wrapper we will open curly braces here and we'll say transactions.map. Okay, and we will have a transaction, and each transaction will return a div. Okay, each transaction will return a div, and this div will have two other divs inside it. First one will be the description and the other one will be the amount. And let's see, we can say key for this one to be transaction dot ID, and let's see, now here we can say transaction dot description, and here we can say transaction dot amount. Let's see what we'll have now. We can see expense, the amount, and the income, and the amount. Cool. We can use those to make the styling right now. So I'm going to say the transactions wrapper. Let's see, let's come back to the app CSS file and say dot transactions wrapper. This thing will have a width of 100%. And when I save, nothing will happen, but I will say border 1 pixel solid red. And we can say display to be flex, align items to be center, and flex direction to be column. Cool. Once we have that, we can style each one of those divs that we have right here. So I'm going to say div with the, actually here we will have to do inline styling. So let's do style and say width of, let's play around 100%. Now watch this. For the background color, I'm gonna say if transaction dot type is equal to the expense, it's gonna be with red background, otherwise it's going to be with green background. So it's an income, it's going to be green background, and if it's the other one, it's going to be red background. And when I save now, you can see that we have clearly separated the transaction and the income type from each other with the colors. And we'll continue. We're going to say display flex, align items to be center, justify content. Here will be space between, and you will see that expense will be on the left side and the amount will be on the other side. Boom, just like this. However, with the width, I'm not happy because it will take the whole thing pretty much, and we can pretty much say 50%. And that will take this amount of space. Yeah, it looks much better to me. Let's see, width, what we can do for height. Maybe we can say 50 pixels, and let's see how they will look. Looks good to me. And we can say padding of 20 pixels. Always forget the, yeah. Now we can say margin top of 20 pixels and save, and you will see that we have a margin, and we can say border radius of 10 pixels and save, and they will have this between them. Now we can return right here and we can remove the border, of course, and we'll see that they have no border. And let's also continue styling this. We can say font weight of bold, font size of, I don't know, 24 pixels maybe. Yeah, it looks much bigger. It looks good to me. Okay, you can see that this thing is pretty much responsive. You can play around with it and you can make it even more responsive when, like, if you add the flex wrap on those boxes, they will wrap it below each one and they will become even more. But you have to play with the CSS media queries. My goal is to teach you about the logic and the whole usage of hooks and how to make it work actually. And I hope that you so far like it. What we can do next, maybe we can increase the width of this to be 60% to make it a little bit bigger. And also font size is too big for 20, I don't know, 20 pixels would be fine, I think. Yeah, 20 pixels would be fine. Yeah, and we can do probably here, we can do an H1 and we can say all transactions right here. And the transactions wrapper, if we give it a little bit of margin, top of, I don't know, 20 pixels, let's see. Yeah, it moved a little bit down. And yeah, we have this working. What we can do now, we have a little bit more work to do. When we click on those, we have to remove them from the array. So to do that, we can use the same logic we created for the add, but here we will have also for the remove. So I'm gonna say const on remove income handler, and again we'll have a method for this, and this will accept the we can actually have one method here on remove. You can call it on remove transactions handler, and here we will have the type, and here we will have the ID as arguments. And what we will do, we will have two if statements. We will check if the type is expense. We will do something, and we will also check if the type is income, and we will do something else, right? So on remove transaction handler, and we can immediately attach this to the div, which we styled right here. I can say on click, and we can run this, and we can say on remove transaction handler, we have to pass type and ID. Right here, we can pass it, and we can say transaction.type and transaction.id. Cool. Once we do that, we can return right here, and we can check if the type is expense. We have to remove that from the expenses array, and if the type is income, we have to remove that from the incomes array. Once we remove something from this, once we change the state for expenses or incomes, the whole thing will render again, and it will evaluate the code, and it will reach up to transactions right here, and it will create the new array with the new expenses and new transactions we have just changed, and it will render you the items right here. So to demonstrate that, let's do it quickly. First of all, we can say const alt expenses, and that's going to be the same logic. So we're going to spread the expenses we have already, and then we're going to say const new expenses, that's going to equal all expenses dot filter, and we're going to filter the already existing expenses. I'm going to say expense right here, and we're going to filter out expense dot ID, which is not equal to the ID that is passed. Once we have the new expenses, we'll say set expenses to the new expenses, just like this. And we can test this out by saving and clicking. And we can see that it disappeared and we have only the income. But this doesn't work because we haven't implemented the logic for it. So pretty much it's the same. However, we have to change it a little bit, and we have to say const alt incomes, and we spread the alt incomes in this array. And then we can say const new incomes, set new incomes, and that's going to be alt incomes.filter. Cool. Let me quickly reload the app from the beginning, and we can see all transactions. We'll fix this in a moment. We shouldn't see anything right here. Maybe we will add another box with an icon saying no transactions for the initial state. So let's add an expense. I'm going to say expense amount will be 1000. Add expense, and we can see this popping up. Income, I'm going to say salary, and they're going to be 5000. That's a big salary because you're a software engineer, of course. And you see it appearing right here. Another one, let's say camera, 123. Income of, I don't know, additional job, and I'll say 1000. Add income, and one more expense, let's say Netflix, and that's gonna be 10. Okay, you can see that they are updating. Isn't this cool? Let's add more. Dog food, because I have a dog and I usually buy my dog this. Income, YouTube, 10,000. And you can see, oh, we have a problem right here. This thing is not scrollable anymore, and you can see that it just worked by something was missed here. Oh, set incomes. My bad. That was my mistake. Okay, so we'll have to add again some gibberish stuff. Let's see. Let's add some incomes, expenses, income, and we want to see that we don't want this to happen. Basically, we want to scroll, and the way we fix this is by going to the transaction wrapper and saying that we want the mean height of this to be calc, mean height to be 100%. Let's see what will happen now if we say mean height 100%. Okay, that doesn't work because we'll have to calculate it. So I'm going to say calc, and we will use the same. We're going to say 100 VH minus the size of the navbar and the footer. And that's going to be 110 pixels. Let's try this out and let's see. Now, we can see that this is not correct. Okay, let's think about. So let's inspect and let's see what we have. These transactions transactions wrapper overflow, we can say scroll, and once we have the overflow scroll, min height, if it's fit content, yeah, it should be inherit, but it doesn't work. So basically the min height of this should be the calculation of this wrapper, which is 250 pixels height, minus plus 55 for this and 55 for this. So 250 plus 110, it makes 360. Let's see. Min height of calc 100 VH minus 360 pixels. It worked, but shouldn't be like that. Okay, let's fix this later. Let's work on the other box we have right here. Pretty much on the app.js, we will return to here. And we're gonna wrap this in curly braces, and we're gonna say if we have expenses that are bigger than 0, sorry, if they are less than, that should be transactions. So transactions, if transactions.length is less than 1, we're gonna display this heading. Otherwise, we will display the div similar to the box income, but it will be with another icon. So it's gonna be a money icon. Or I don't know, maybe notes, let's say. Notes. Let's pull this one, gr notes, and import it. So I'm going to say import gr notes from React icons gr, just like this, and come back right here and say gr notes. Let's make this gold, and let's come back. Okay, transactions.length Okay, that should be length bigger than 0. It should be like this. And it should say no transactions. Okay, no transactions. And of course, if we want, we can go back and we can give this a class of box no transactions, and we can grab the class name. We can go to app CSS and put it right here, and pretty much copy and paste the same styles, but no transition right here, and just give it margin of 20 pixels top and bottom, and 0 right here. And I think with that it will look the same as long as I save, and you can see it up. It's below the other boxes, but we want to color will be yellow. I don't know why it doesn't want to change the color of this. GR nodes. GR nodes. Let's see if they have an API section right here. Let's come back. Okay, we will leave it like that. However, we don't want to have a click listener to this one, so I'm gonna remove it completely. And let's see, node modules. We have the app, but something is messed up. Something is messed up because we have to remove this calc. And now we can see that everything we did is working. The model is displayed correctly, and we have no transactions. But let's fix this overflow thing. What I think we should do now is we can give a min height to the app. Let's try this out. If we give a min height to the app, what will happen now? Min height of 100 pixels, 100 VH. Let's add some transactions. So this, and this. Yeah, we can see that we have achieving the scroll behavior, which we want. Yeah, we can scroll literally. And I think that we just need to give some padding to the bottom to the list, and we'll be fine. Yeah, so padding bottom to the list. So I'm gonna say transactions the transactions wrapper will have padding bottom of 20 pixels. Let's see. When we do this, we'll see that we are not overflowing to the footer, and that looks good to me. And I can click and I can remove the transactions one by one. And once I don't have transactions, we can see that we have the list disappearing, and we have no transactions box right here. Finally, what we can do, let's check this out on big screen. We have the overlay of the modal. We can close the modal. Okay, can close the modal. It looks good. And what we can do, I'm gonna comment out the code. I'm gonna remove the code that I don't want inside it, my CSS file. Everything will be in the Git repository. If you are a Patreon, you will have, of course, access to it. I will grant you with access, and you will be able to use this code and modify it if you want, of course. What else we can do now? I think we have done pretty much everything. And we can add the hover effect, of course. We can play with the hover effect now if we have some time more. Let's see why it didn't work. So I think it didn't work because we did it the wrong way. Let's see, boxed expense on hover. Let's increase the width to 300 pixels and height to 300 pixels. And let's see. Oh, okay, now it works. You see that I can actually increase, have some effect. Okay, cool. And I can also, I can say background color of RGB 0, 0, 0, 0.3. And I can see now that actually it can be also, I don't know, maybe black at all. Background color of black and color of white. Let's see. If I save now, and we can see the effect, which is cool. Yeah, it's cool. And we can do the same for the other box. And I believe that I can say box income hover, and it will work. Now if I save everything, yeah, it works, and I can achieve this effect that we have. Yeah, isn't that cool? I think this is amazing. Expense 1000 at expense, and we can see the expense appearing. Now you can play with this, of course. You can play with the colors. You can add some other icons here. Instead of clicking on the div, you can directly click on the icon and work for it. But I believe we did a lot of work for this time. You learned how to use your React hooks and how to achieve this great functionality. This is a lot of functionality right here. You literally learned all the concepts that React has in terms of hooks, in terms of state changes. You learned how to concat arrays, how to set the state, how to create a modal and render that modal conditionally, and you learned so many things. And I'm happy that I taught you that, and I am happy that you are watching this video, of course. If you like such content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you become a Patreon to receive access to all projects, and also become a part of my Discord community where you can ask me questions and where you can have a contact with me. I will be glad to teach you more about React and other frameworks and help you become a better developer. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I see you again in the future.